Hello beautiful people, welcome to another episode of the Comic Wall. I am the Outcast Angel, and today let's talk about issue number 1 of Skybound's new series, Crude, by Steve Orlando and Garry Brown. Now, what drew me to this series the most was the plot behind it, and I really get into that more after reviewing it, and you'll see exactly why. So I guess let's go ahead and just dive right in, as the cover does. So we start off with a small little family setting. Mother is making breakfast for herself, her son, and her husband, and the title up in the corner reads Vladimir, Russia, 15 years ago. So we're building up to the current timeline in the story. Seems like a normal family setting, the father serves his son, and the son mentions, you're always working, Dad. Do that? Many people really need insurance, so maybe some kind of insurance salesperson, I guess, Wrong. The next scene is titled 15 years and 2 days before, so this is 2 days before where we're starting. And, well, Peter, the father, is in this like sky car, and he's in front of this huge, burly, beefy dude who's protecting this scrawny little fucker over here. And he's like, the scrawny little dude's like, do something, and big dude is like, he addresses Peter by Golovrat. I don't know how to pronounce that really. I'm gonna pronounce it Golovrat. And he's talking about training, and so big dude makes a move, ends up getting smashed down on his face by Peter. So Peter must be some kind of assassin or some kind of special agent, in other words. Hopefully we'll get more into that as the series goes on, because I'm really interested as to what Peter really does. So he makes a move on Scrawny Dude while Scrawny Dude's pulling out a gun and shooting at him, and just rips out his throat like nothing. Now back to the family setting. Peter has this expression on his face that looks like he's having flashbacks about what he did 2 days before. And I guess we can safely assume that he's keeping what he does as a career, probably being an assassin, from his son. And I don't know if his wife knows either. Well, maybe she does, because right here she mentions, are we still going to Dasha this weekend, or are you back to working? And working is in bold. This is one of the things I love about the lettering. The letterer for this series is Thomas Maurer, and what I love about the lettering is that it really enforces like what happens in the story. If a good series has to have a good letterer, because then you can really, I guess, set the tone of the story through the writing. And Peter ends up saying, no, not working, not anymore. And so maybe he's done with that, maybe he quit, maybe he's just putting that life behind him, because here you can see that he's having a hard time dealing with this. It's possibly the reason why he just has this so like expressionless expression on his face, because he looks pretty bothered by all this. So now we're thrown 1 year ago back in Vladimir, and Kirill, the little boy from the beginning, is all grown up, and he's in bed with two different people, a man and a woman. So I guess it's safe to assume that Kirill is bisexual, because the couple is like, we love you, Kirill, but we can't have people seeing you with us. We can't have this getting out. What we have here needs to stay behind closed doors. Someone could find out about us, and it's dangerous. But Kirill says, I told you, I don't care. And they do. They know it's dangerous, especially somewhere like Russia, because Russia is a very homophobic country, and it's not really safe for the LGBT community in general over there. And so Kirill is like, he's tired of having to hide this, I guess, about himself, and he says, maybe we could be ourselves if we stopped being afraid, if others did too. And he mentions about going to Blackstone, which Blackstone is this, like, it's this refinery city, kind of like how, you know, here in the States, everyone wants to go to LA and make it big, and, you know, start a life over there. This is kind of the same thing for Carol, because they value hard work among more than everything else. So they're not going to care who you are, what you do, or what kind of person you are. As long as you work hard and get it done, it's that's all they care about. And so I can understand why this is some kind of, I guess, big deal, because Carol really wants to be himself. He wants to not have to hide this part of him. He mentions that, I'm not afraid of working hard. Maybe I could be one of the first. I could start something. If I could live openly there, others could too. And it would be a fight, but don't we deserve a chance? I can appreciate this personally, because as a transgender woman myself, I try to live openly and, you know, visibly, in hopes that my visibility will benefit others who come after me, or even now, because, you know, I'm very open about my gender identity, and I'm very open about my experience, because I hope that I can be able to educate people as much as I can, at least through my experience, and, you know, hopefully just give, like, my younger transgender brothers and sisters or friends and everything, just give them a chance to really have a stepping stone into their transitions. But, you know, I'm not going to push that here, but that's how I can really appreciate where Carol is coming from here. So now we're thrown to Vladimir again, in Vladimir, Russia, and Carol is meeting up with his father. What stood out to me the most here is that Carol is addressing his father by Peter Petrovich instead of, like, father or dad, and even he's like, why do you insist on calling me that? And Carol argues that formality separates us from the animals, sometimes not even look at them, and there's this little scuffle going on between three people. And he mentions, Carol mentions, isn't this how your generation solves things? Have you never thrown a punch? And here, Peter's still protecting his son. He's still hiding this other side of him, because he looks at him, he hesitates, and then he says, no. So he's still trying to protect his son in some way, even now that he's much older than he was before. So I guess Carol's just meeting up with his dad, and they're having dinner, but I'm kind of confused by this part, because I think Peter and his wife are separated, or I'm not too sure, because Carol ends up saying, so did you talk to Mom recently? And Peter says, we only talk when it's mushroom season, which I have no idea what that means. Hopefully they'll cover that later. And Carol's like, damn it, she was supposed to tell you. And this is where he tells his dad that he's going to Blackstone. He's pretty set on moving there already. His reasoning behind it is that I can't spend my life like you selling insurance to dry generic people, doing things no one will remember. He says, I need to be myself, and maybe help people by doing it. I can't do that here where nothing changes, and especially, you know, I guess somewhere as conservative as Russia. And so he really wants to start this kind of movement to, you know, just really be himself. And I can, of course I can understand that, because I live by, you should always be who you are and who you say you are, not by what other people label you as, or by what other people say you should be. And so, you know, Peter's kind of like what, my life is so bad that you need to run away to some glorified work camp. That's what stands out to me the most, is because it's not like going to LA where you try to make it big. LA's not some kind of work camp, but it's some kind of place for people to run away to and try to start a new life. So why is a work camp any better than that, you know? I guess with whatever type of career Peter had as an assassin, he set up this wall between him and his son, so he and his son never really got to get as close as, as a father and son should have. And even now, a year later, now we're in the current timeline of the story. Peter is talking with his wife, and his wife is pissed, and she's saying, like, why didn't you ever tell him? You're too much of a coward to really tell him about the killing. You lied about it, lied your way into being half of a father and someone he didn't respect or trust. What were you trying to do? Protect him from your world? You never talked to him. You never you ended up putting up a wall, and it hurt him. You gave him nowhere to feel at home, and it spread, and he left because of you, and now he's never coming back. And so now we're sent to later that night, where Peter's waiting at a train station. These two men bring out a body bag, and turns out that Carol was killed in Blackstone. And if anything, it could have been some kind of hate crime, what would be considered here. Sorry, my dog's drinking water rather loudly. She's a total brat. So one of the men addresses Peter by Colorist, the way that Burly Guy did in the beginning, and I guess that's some kind of like code name for him, I guess. And he says, "My God, this is your son?" And again, with the lettering, "your son" is kind of in bold. And Peter mentions that hasn't been my name in years, and leave me alone, whatever. So Peter opens the body bag, and we see Carol after a year with his face is pretty scarred up. He has some stitching on his cheek, and he has a bullet hole in the middle of his forehead. And so Peter's pissed. He's absolutely enraged. And throughout this whole page, these 9 panels of him opening the body bag and seeing his son, all it says is, "This is your son? This is your son?" Like as if it was some bad thing or some, like, unbelievable thing. And I guess I can understand that, because this was some kind of mob hit, or some kind of, it was, I guess, personal in a way. And Peter apologized to him, because he says, "My past life returned from the dead to claim you. And I guess there's only one good thing about this son. You won't see what comes next." He's set out for blood. He is set on bringing these people, well, whoever killed his son, and killing them. And so now he's traveling to Blackstone to try and find out what kind of man his son was, and to kind of retrace his steps to see, like, what kind of life he lived over there in Blackstone, and hopefully find out who killed him. One of the things that stood out to me the most is that this scene right here, this big burly dude is talking to him. He's like, "You have no bags, no equipment. What are you bringing to this? What are you bringing to this job? A positive attitude?" And Peter ends up saying, "Everything I need to serve you your balls, friend." And he just has this stone cold expression on him. And this is what I love about the art by Garry Brown's art, and by Loughridge. Loughridge is the colorist for the series, and this is what I love the most about this artistic team, is because the coloring and the shading of this whole story really sets a dark overtone to this whole story. And like, even here, it's perfect for this story, and I love it. So now we see the ferry that they're on is arriving to Blackstone, and it doesn't even look like a city. It looks like just this giant factory in the middle of the ocean. And like Peter had said, it's a glorified work camp. And to me, it almost feels like it has a kind of Gotham-like feel to it. And so Peter finishes the issue with, "Okay, Carol, let's show me who you really were." And, you know, this is where he sets out to find out what kind of man his son really was, you know, a little too late, and really figure out how he died and who killed him. So I'm pretty excited for this because, you know, it really has a central theme of the type of stigma that the LGBT community faces, not just, you know, in the world in general, and especially somewhere like Russia where I believe it's illegal to even mention, I guess, being gay or anything like that. It's a very homophobic state, and it's some pretty bad news. But it's an interesting story. That was one of the things that really drew me to it, because it, you know, especially now with all the hate, all the division going on in the country, I guess it's a good take on different things. And even the author, Steve Orlando, is like, "You probably think I'm angry, but that's not the case. I just have a story to tell." And what does he say? Because he has a letter in the back of the issue that really speaks his thoughts. He says that Peter's anger is my own. He can do what I cannot, lashing out at his demons and ghosts and holding the whole world accountable. I'm excited to be covering this series, and I can't wait to see what else comes out of it. So, you know, I hope you guys liked this video. Drop a like if you did. Show the love. And, you know, as always, same deal. Hit that subscribe button to get more of my videos. Ring the bell to get notifications of when I post new videos. And, you know, if you guys have any comments, any debates, any theories about what you thought about this issue, you know, throw them down in the comments and we'll talk about it. And, of course, you know, I'll see you guys in the next episode, and thank you for watching.